Hello and welcome to Complete with DLC, the only show causing Nintendo stock to rise 25%. I'm one of your hosts, Brad Knight, and sitting across from me is the Pokemon Master himself, Jacob Griffin. Jacob Griffin? Jacob Griffin. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. This episode has been cursed, though.
It's right now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. We usually record an hour earlier, but Jacob and I have been plagued with technical difficulties because it is not a Complete with DLC if there is no technical difficulty.
More like you've been plagued with technical difficulties. Nothing's happened to
I hate it. I hate it. It's awful, and I hate it.
me. So, before this episode explodes, maybe we should get into what we're playing.
Yes. Alright, Jacob, we skipped the introduction banter in favor of actually getting the show done before my internet dies again. So why don't you tell me what you've been playing this week?
This week, I've, weirdly enough, been playing that Saints Row game that I complained about last week. Like, all week, I've been playing it. Right, don't care about the story. I finished it, like, in an hour. The storyline, like, all the main campaign missions.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous that they were charging $20 for this, I think, at least. And then... what I've been doing now is I've just been collecting all the collectibles in it and stuff, because I kind of want to get the platinum in it, because it seems very easy to get the platinum. But,
that's the trophy, right?
yes, because I'm playing on PlayStation because it was the free game.
Yeah.
This month with PlayStation Plus, but I don't know, like, its gameplay is fun, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it's good enough to keep me wanting to play it. My problem is that, like, eventually you can upgrade your character to have a collectible finder, which is very useful when you're trying to find collectibles, but the problem is that the collectibles, you can't see them on, like, if you go into, like, the pause menu and go to your map and set a waypoint to it, it just pops up on your mini-map when you're running around, so you just kind of have to wander aimlessly hoping that something will pop up on your mini-map.
No, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I know. I feel like if you have the collectible finder, it should also be in the regular thing, but also, too, when I was playing this, right, I had this huge, like, glitch that happened where there's, like, these former collectibles that are just, like, sightseeing, and Johnny Gat will say, like, a funny thing about whatever he sees, and then that's the collectible, right?
Yeah.
And, like, half the time I would come across these, because, like, they're marked on the map as, like, the same thing as other collectibles, because there's, like, these books that you can find or something like that are, like, they're basically, like, audio recordings in any other game where you'd find, like, an audio log from one of the NPC characters. But it's marked the same as these sightseeing ones, so when I'd find these sightseeing ones, like, I'd just stand there and it wouldn't do anything, or it would be like, press triangle to observe surroundings, and I would do that and it would do nothing. But then when I came back and played the game, I all of a sudden could collect those now. It was really weird. So that game, it has weird bugs in it, I've noticed.
Well,
But,
I don't think they put the same kind of time and energy into creating that as they did their main titles, so it wouldn't surprise me if that were the case.
Yeah, I wish that, like, they would go back and make, like, a regular Saints Row game, though, at this point. Not like I'm saying regular as in, like, let's make, like, a realistic crime game. Like, I mean, like, regular as in, like, the last two games have started off as DLCs that they turned into, like, fuller games. Like, Saints Row 4 was a full game, technically, but it started off as being a DLC for 3, and then this one was, like, a DLC that somehow got blown up into a full downloadable game. So, like, I just wish they would make, like, an actual full Saints Row game from the ground up and not just make a DLC out of it.
Yeah,
but,
one that starts as a game and one that ends as a game.
Exactly. But other than that, I haven't really played anything. But I told you before we started recording that I was going to have a rant about the Xbox.
You did?
And here's my rant about the Xbox, right?
Okay,
so
Xbox One specifically.
Xbox One specifically, not the 360. The 360 is fine. It's just really slow because it's an old system. But with the Xbox One, they were having their Ultimate Xbox game sale this week, right? They had some pretty decent sales going, and there were some games on there that I had played before, but I wanted to play again because either I didn't have them anymore or, you know, I just wanted to start over. Most of the time it was because I didn't have any more. But so I bought two games on the Xbox game sale. I bought Far Cry 4, and because I wanted to play it again before the second one came out, just to see if my opinion differs now, because I have actual expectations that are, like, made for that game, having played it already, is Watch Dogs. They were both on sale for, like, I think, like, Watch Dogs was $12 and Far Cry was $16, right? and I just love Far Cry, so I just wanted to play Far Cry. But I swear to God, the hard drives that they put in an Xbox One must be the slowest hard drives in the world, right? And it's not even like it's downloading multiple things at once, because if it was downloading multiple things at once, I'd understand that. It would run slower because it's downloading 2 things to a hard drive, right? Because the PlayStation does that, and sometimes it makes the download super slow. But this is downloading 1 game at a time, and I shit you not here, Brad. I bought these games at like, I want to say 11 o'clock at night. It's 2 o'clock now. I've only paused them so that way my internet is fine over the Skype call, right?
Yeah.
Far Cry had only downloaded 54% in over like 14 hours.
That's really slow.
Yeah, that's incredibly slow. Even to like the point of, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I forgot to mention that because it's old and I've talked how much I love that game on the show anyway. But when I downloaded Red Dead Redemption, that's a 4 gigabyte game. That took me like 5 hours to download.
And you sure your internet speed isn't being throttled?
My internet speed is fine because if I say download things on PlayStation, they download in a normal amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it's taking me 8 hours. I think it's just something with the Xbox hard drive. And I really don't know what it is. So like I'm thinking that I might get just an external hard drive. Or are external SSDs a thing?
For Xbox? I don't know, actually.
I don't know. Well,
I don't think so.
The Xbox can just use external hard drives.
Yeah.
So if they have an external SSD, I assume that would just work like a external hard drive would.
Yeah, I don't imagine they care which one it is.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if they exist and they're not like... Because I kind of want to get a big amount, but if they're like super expensive, I'm not going to spend any money. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it. I'll just buy a better external hard drive. I'll look up one of those like things online. It's like, here's the best external hard drive to buy for your Xbox. You know what I mean?
Yep. Apparently they are a thing because it was the second search on Google. As for how much they cost, I'm getting all sorts of things that aren't SSDs, so.
Oh, so maybe it's just a high Google search result because people are like, do these exist?
Yeah. But they seem to be 2 terabytes for about $100.
Yeah, I've noticed external hard drives 2 terabytes for $100, or I think at GameStop they have like a 3 terabyte for like 120. So
yeah, I'm seeing a 4 for 150. So
it now just becomes the war of attrition of like, well, maybe I should just spend that little bit more to get, you know, another terabyte or 2 more terabytes. You know what I mean? I always do this with hard drives. I notice like even when I've been building my PC, where I'm like, oh, it's 50 for a 1 terabyte, but it's 75 for a 2 terabyte.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I didn't think I'd ever need more than 2 terabytes on the Xbox I have, because I have actually it's not 2 terabytes, it's 1 terabyte, I forget. Whatever the Advanced Warfare shipped with, which I think was
1 terabyte.
1 terabyte.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd ever need more than that, but I normally sit around like 70-80% of that full. So
yeah, it's because games now have gotten a lot bigger than they were back on like the 360 or PS3. Because back in the 360 or PS3, I think like the highest game maybe might have been like 10 gigabytes, something like that. Yeah. Now they're at like 50 minimum. You know what I mean? So
and it's all that uncompressed audio.
Exactly. That's
Compress
probably what
your
it
audio.
Is. Putting those flacks in there.
Did you hear about No Man's Sky? It's 6 gigs on disc or whatever.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, they had, after he had gone gold, Sean Murray had put up a tweet saying, you know, I'm so proud of the team, blah, 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 and he was holding up a disc, which was the certification disc, where they sent it out to Sony to bug test it.
Yeah.
I forget the official name of that. It's like, like, certification disc 1 or whatever, I forget it, but...
It's something like that.
And, I guess they passed the certification tests in 3 regions the first time, which is pretty good. It's not too terribly common that it passes its first go. But he was answering a bunch of questions about the disc, like what the markings mean and, you know, what the size of the disc and all that. And it was apparently 6 gigs and most of that is audio, so. I guess it's because procedural generation code doesn't exactly take up a lot of space, so.
Yeah. I mean, I assume the reason why they use uncompressed audio is because it sounds better.
Yeah.
You know, in the game.
Although I don't think they'd, to fit on 6 gigs, even with No Man's Sky being mostly procedurally generated, I think their audio has to be compressed, because there's no way they'd get 6 gigs of uncompressed audio for that whole game.
Yeah, I don't think it's
audio
a full
takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, I mean, I made a joke about FLACs, but FLACs do actually sound a lot better than MP3s.
Yeah, well, unfortunately MP3s are standard. But
Yeah, exactly. But
we've gotten way off topic here.
Yeah, Brad, what have you been playing?
So more Pokemon Go,
I'm
and
so sick of this game.
I'm starting to wonder how many weeks I can say I've been playing Pokemon Go before I need to stop saying it. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. This is sort of, I think it jives with me better than most others, just because, a lot of people are complaining about, the lack of, good battles or like gym bugs or all this other stuff, and I particularly don't really care about them, just because like my only goal is to catch them. In the initial slogan, to be the best there ever was, I don't care about that part. It's the catch them all part I care about.
To catch them is your real test.
Yeah, to train them is my cause. But I'm not going to recite the Pokemon theme song here.
Because we could do it.
We absolutely could, but I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I've very rarely left my house, and I'm still catching quite a few. So I'm curious to see when I go on vacation next week or the week after, I forget, what kind of Pokemon are going to be in New Hampshire as opposed to where here in this little town of Massachusetts. But
also, too, I think you're having a better experience than most people because they just seem to be appearing in your house.
Oh yeah, for some reason my house is just a cesspool of Pokemon. I don't know what's going on, but at my desk I have caught a Pidgeot, a Ghastly, a Clefable, like all these Pokemon that I think would be a little harder to find, but no, they're just kind of floating around my desk.
You caught a Magikarp earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, I caught a Magikarp right before this recording started. It was the only thing that was keeping me from pulling my hair out.
I don't get it, because like I sit in my house, right? I've had like 2 pop up in my house. I had like the starter one, obviously, because that's one that needs to pop up in your house. And then I forget what else popped in my house, but something else popped up in my house.
I had a Zubat pop in your house for me.
Exactly. When you came the other night to record the Resident Evil video, check YouTube .com/whatever to see this. But you had a Zubat pop up, but like, none of that ever happens for me. Like, and I never find them on, like, say, my walks to work, or I very rarely find them if I go anywhere, right? Like, I found a ton in Somerset the other day, which is a nearby town. It's like literally right over the river from us. And I went out to lunch, and I found like tons, but like other than that, like, I haven't found anything. I found a Caterpie in the industrial park the other day. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, apparently people have figured out that the spawn rate of Pokemon is vary depending on how intense the cell phone usage in your area is. So rather than going like in long walks in the forest, you're not going to find anything. But if you walk around a mall or a downtown shopping area, they're going to be everywhere. That seems to be the general consensus. But I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm going to keep playing until I get 151. But having learned that I need to catch 100 more Magikarps to get a Gyarados is kind of upsetting to me, because I've only ever seen one, and there's not a lot of Magikarp in this area from what I'm understanding.
Try it down by the water.
I apparently need to go to San Francisco because there are just Magikarp everywhere.
Get a waterproof cell phone case and dive deep beneath the ocean.
Yeah, but don't get a, what was the phone that was getting reamed for not being waterproof when it said it was? It just happened recently, I forget.
It might have been one of like the Galaxy phones or like an HTC thing.
I think it was the newest Galaxy that got reamed for it. But anyway, other than Pokemon Go, I've been playing Crypt of the Necrodancer. You heard of this?
I've heard of this game, yeah. I think I played it as that sucked one day.
Yeah, it's so for those of you who don't know, what Crypt of the Necrodancer is, it's a roguelike pixel art game where you can only move to the beat of the song being played at the level. So there's a little heart at the bottom of the screen and some notes. Well, not notes, but like little lines that move towards the heart. And when the notes touch the heart and you hear or whatever the beat is in the song, you can jump. You can jump up, down, left, right, whatever. And that's the only movement you can do in the game. To attack, you just have to jump into things. And the idea is you go through each of these levels and you fight the bosses or whatever. It's very similar to, other roguelikes, like Binding of Isaac, I think is a pretty good comparison. But the main difference is that you can only move to the beat of the music. And I have about 4 hours in the game now, and I've completed 3 out of the 4 zones. So I'm almost done with the game. And I, for the life of me, don't know why I keep playing it, because I'm not enjoying the game.
Why aren't you enjoying it?
I don't know what it is, but it's something about, like, I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack's awesome. It's very, I I don't know, it gets you excited to play the level again. I think that's the only reason I'm playing the game is to keep hearing the music. But if as soon as I will myself to Google the soundtrack, I'm done playing the game. But something about restricting my movement to the jumping of those of the beat is sort of annoying to me, and the fact that when I get frustrated with games like this, I play more recklessly, and I try to play faster, but this game doesn't let you play faster. You have to play at the tempo of the song. So, like, I'll die twice, I'll get annoyed, and I'll try to just kind of speed through the level, but at the bottom of the screen, all I see is missed, because I'm not hitting the notes. I'm just sort of trying to jump.
Right.
And that sort of frustrates me more. So, I don't know, I'm not crazy about the game. I think it's an awesome mechanic. It's a great soundtrack. The bosses are really, really intuitive. It's pretty funny. They managed to stick with the theme of the game through the bosses as well. Like, it's like Coral Riff is one of them.
Right.
And he's an octopus with each one of his tentacles playing an instrument. And whenever you kill one of the tentacles, that instrument drops out of the song you're playing.
That's cool.
So, like, yeah, if you kill the violin that he's playing, the violin drops out of the song, and it's really, really cool. And all the bosses are like that. From what I understand, there are only 4 though. It's him, like Death Metal is one of them. Conga Line dude, I don't remember his name. And like I think the other one's called Deep Blues, and it's like a chess game. So it's a wonderful game. I totally recommend everybody check it out, because I imagine most people are gonna have a better time with this than I did. But for the life of me, it frustrates the hell out of me to play this game. Whereas it's not a problem with the genre, because I love games like Binding of Isaac. I have like 200 hours in Binding of Isaac, which in the long run isn't much, but
right.
It's I don't know. It's something about the way the movement works. It bugs me, but I totally recommend everybody check it out. It was run at GDQ this year, the one that just ended. So check YouTube Games Done Quick if you want to see the speedrun of it. They did a race between 2 players. It was very entertaining.
Is that what made you check it out? Was seeing it on that? And
I saw it on that, and my brother had owned it, and he decided to play it after it had been speedrun. So I saw him playing it, and I'm like, that looks like odd. I don't know if I'm going to like that game, but I'll give it a shot. And after the first hour, I knew I didn't like it, but I feel like I can't justifiably say I don't like a game with only an hour in.
right.
So I had to, for science's sake, I had to keep playing it.
It's all for science here, complete with DLC.
Exactly. But that's really all I've been playing is Pokemon Go and Crypt of the Necrodancer. I swear I will get to Banner Saga 2 eventually.
Next week, maybe I'll finally be able to tell you how Far Cry 4 is if it installs within that time.
I wouldn't hold your breath, though.
Yeah.
But, Jacob, now that we have gotten our Pokemon adventures and our dancing fever out of the way, why don't we move on to the news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, Jacob. Now, since we have talked about this game plenty of times on the show, I feel like it's only fitting to start off the news with this, and it's Pokemon Go. And I wanted to get out of the way first, because just purge it from your mind after the story, and you'll be good.
That's what I'm hoping to do.
So, in case any of you were wondering what kind of success this game is getting, Nintendo's stock price has raised 25%, Pokemon music streaming is at an all-time high on Spotify, and Nintendo's market value is up $7.5 billion.
So I have a question about this. Why is Nintendo's stock going up if they don't really have anything to do with this?
Yeah, that's the funny part, is Nintendo had nothing to do with this game. The only stake they have in this is they own a third of the Pokemon Company.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's it. It's like, this is a deal between the Pokemon Company and Niantic and I guess Google.
Well, not Google anymore, because Niantic had separated from Google after Ingress.
Oh, I didn't know if Google was involved, because you sign in with a Google account, so...
Yeah, so that's sort of just the Google architecture they have left over from when they had Ingress, because they're very, very similar in how they're set up. But
yeah,
the only thing Nintendo has done for this is license a Pokemon to these guys. They didn't market it, as far as I'm aware. They didn't develop it. They did nothing with this game other than license the title over to Niantic to develop.
I mean, this game essentially had no marketing either. It seemed to, like, one day just come out. Like, I remember when I texted you and asked you if you had downloaded it yet, you didn't even know it was out.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. And I think maybe there was like 1 or 2 commercials for it, but 90% of the marketing for this game was word of mouth. Like, we talked about it on the show because someone had written an article on Kotaku or Polygon or whatever, talking about an interview they did with a developer. That's almost all of the publicity this game got. And yet, it's almost an overnight success for Nintendo. And I think this is sort of going to wake up Nintendo a little bit, saying, hey, listen, there's sort of money in this mobile thing if you want to put some effort into it. So, the reason I put this in here is because, one, I wanted to talk about how ridiculous that 25% stock price jump is. It's not as much as they need. They're still suffering from that 36% drop they had last quarter, but they're starting to recover because of Pokemon Go. But also I wanted to mention this little tidbit of it's overtaken Tinder in users and is about to overtake Twitter as well. It did not. Down. Internet cut out again. 22 minutes into the recording. God damn it. Alright, Jacob, we're back.
Yep. Yep, we are.
Skype decided it wanted to stop recording, so that's what we did. And Skype has allowed us to record again. So, to pick up where I left off, the reason I put this story in the news doc today was because there's this little tidbit of information that I thought was interesting. And that's Pokemon Go has surpassed Tinder and is about to overtake Twitter in mobile users.
That's surprising to me that it's surpassed Tinder.
Not
And that it's even about to hit Twitter.
Not just surpassed, it dominated. So Pokemon Go is right now on about 5.16% of all US Android phones, as opposed to 2% for Twitter. So it's more than double.
You mean Tinder?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said Twitter.
I meant Tinder. Yeah, so it's doing much better than Tinder's doing right now. But keep in mind, this data is for Android, so it might be tweaked a little bit for iOS numbers.
Tinder's a more of an iOS thing, I feel like.
It might be, but I wasn't able to find any data on iOS numbers, so I had to stick with the Twitter stuff. And as for Twitter, it was sort of sneaking at the heels of it. As of today, it might have overtaken it. I don't have the most recent data. This data is as of Friday. So on Friday, 3% of users were using the game daily, and the number for Twitter was 3.5%. So, and Pokemon Go's user rate is rising at a pretty steady rate. So we could see it overtake Twitter if it hasn't done so already. So it's kind of ridiculous. And keep in mind that the only areas that have this right now are the US, Australia, and New Zealand. Everybody else doesn't have it yet.
Really?
Yeah, we're the only areas. It was up for a little while in Korea, and it was up for, I believe, a very brief amount of time in Europe. But we're the only ones with the official release right now. So when it resumes its worldwide release later this week, we could see these numbers skyrocket.
This is... I honestly, I say, I've been saying it all weekend, I think it's insane how big this game is getting, but, it's a fad, so I feel like it's just everybody's downloading it, even if they don't play Pokemon or not, because, there are people who, I would never think they play Pokemon, but they're, downloading this game, or, a person who I hadn't even talked to since my, freshman year of high school DM'd me on Twitter because the day it officially came out in Australia and stuff, it wasn't out in the US. So in order to download it, you had to do some workarounds in order to get it in the US. And so I did that, and I was tweeting about it. And so he DM'd me on Twitter and asked me, how did I download it? And I just thought that was crazily weird that I had never even talked to this person since freshman year of high school, and now all of a sudden he's asked me how to download Pokemon Go. So I think that it's crazy how this game is getting so huge, but I think it's just a nostalgia thing. Even if you didn't play Pokemon, maybe you watch the show, or maybe it's a fad thing, so you're I need to be involved in the latest trend.
Maybe it's going to depend entirely on Nintendo's next move. So now that they have Nintendo's attention, to say the least. So I'm going to be curious to see what sort of resources Nintendo's going to put towards this to make it a lasting title and not just, the monthly fad. Because as it is right now, the game doesn't have much staying power. But we do know of some upcoming features that are coming, like trading with friends and fixes to the battling system. So I'm curious to see what sort of changes they're planning to make.
Yeah, I think that if those changes come and they're not significant enough to fix what people don't like or change the game in any sort of way, I think this game could die out real quick.
It's entirely possible, but it's important to remember that if they can just keep this game going long enough, that they have 6 more generations of Pokemon to go through.
It's true.
So they got plenty of Pokemon to keep adding to the game over a slow period of time. So this game potentially has a very long amount of staying power, but the ball's in Nintendo's court. And apparently this is not a total surprise of how big of a success it was, because Tatsumi, the president, Tatsumi Kimishima, had said that investors needn't worry about the future of Nintendo because of new mobile games like Pokemon Go and the release of the NX. So if anybody saw this coming, it might have been Tatsumi, which I guess if your president is seeing such a big increase coming, I guess you have the right guy in charge. But we're going to have to see. We could see a resurgence in Nintendo's attention to the mobile market, other than things like Miitomo.
Yeah, it's all a waiting game, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Like so many of the other things we talk about on this show. But speaking of large increases, Evolve is seeing a huge increase in Steam players after going free-to-play, which is a great thing, because I think...
because it's a free game. Like, I could have told you that.
I think it's 2 things. 1, it's a free game, and 2, people are curious about what they're going to change and what's different about the game when they bought it, so... It's sort of a 1-2 punch. It's free, so there's no risk, and they want to see what the difference is. So curiosity gets them in more than anything. So in the last 30 days, Evolve has averaged 567 consecutive players, a 434% increase over the previous month. In June, it hit a peak of 234 players playing at the same time. The time this article was written, in July 8th, Evolve Stage 2 is currently sitting at a peak of 24,300 concurrent players. So... almost 100 times more.
Pretty decent amount of people to hit that game.
Yeah, so it's jumped up about 100,000 more people. Or about 100,000 more people. The internet dropped and my mind just, went home. It went on vacation. It decided that it wasn't going to record either. But it's seeing a very, very large increase. Keep in mind that all these stats, oh my god. All of these stats are through a third-party tracker called Steam Charts, so they're not going to be totally accurate because Steam is notorious for not releasing any of this data to people, so that's why things like Steam Spy and Steam Charts exist. But it's good to see that Evolve is seeing more players.
Can I say something a little, not scummy, but, bad on the part of... I'm going to assume 2K was involved in this deal here. Is, you know how we read last week that it'll eventually become free-to-play on consoles too once they're out of beta on PC?
Yeah.
During that Xbox sale, they were selling Evolve on sale.
Really?
For, yeah. Which I think is real, shitty if your game's about to become free-to-play.
Well, it had been taken off the Steam store because of that reason, because it was going free-to-play, but he did say that anybody who owns the game, or had purchased the game, is going to get extra bonuses, so maybe that was the intention behind it. If you want to buy it now and get the bonuses, you can, because it's on sale.
Even still, I think maybe... You shouldn't encourage people to be purchasing your game that in, let's say, a couple months' time will be free. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I think it's just because we don't know what those rewards are.
God,
you've got to be...
Damn it.
The internet dropped again. Okay, Jacob, 3rd time's the charm. I thought the internet had dropped. It didn't. It was Skype being annoying again. But, to pick up where we left off, you had said that you didn't think it was a good idea, or in good faith, to try to sell the game at a discount when it's going to be free in a couple of months, correct?
Yes, that was basically what the last thing I said was.
Okay, and the part you didn't hear was I had responded with saying, I think the only reason it seems worse than it might be is because we don't know what the rewards they had promised will be yet, right? So for all we know, they're purchasing the game at a discount to get 1 extra skin, which is ridiculous, right? But if the rewards that are going to come out are a sizable amount, then I think it's fine. The problem is we don't know enough.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I remember seeing it and just thinking, that's not that cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, it can, depending on how this plays out, it could be a very scummy move, but we'll see. Hopefully it's not, but the game's doing very well. It's 3,000 players shy of its all-time great peak of 27,000 players, so it's going to be probably bigger than it was the first time around, which is a good thing. But let us move on into different terrains, into different areas. into one that is slightly sadder, but more funny, I think. And it's the fact that a pizzeria is being bombarded with phone calls because of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise.
I remember I read the story before you would even put it into the news doc, and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
The pizzeria's place is called Freddy's Restaurant and Pizzeria of Long Branch, and has been just bombarded with phone calls asking about the Five Nights at Freddy's game. And it's apparently coming at all hours from all coasts. So this guy is getting calls from Maine to San Francisco asking about whether or not Five Nights is at his store. And unfortunately, a representative from the state's Restaurant and Hospitality Association had told the press that it's not as simple as changing the phone number, because they would lose a significant amount of business.
Right.
So this guy is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and the guy in charge, Hernandez, isn't oblivious to what Five Nights at Freddy's is. He knows at least what it is, and his description of it was, imagine if Chuck E. Cheese loses his mind, which is a pretty good... He's pretty much got the whole thing down, but he's sort of hoping that this whole thing passes. Maybe he can one day get back to answering phone calls as to what people would like on their pizza, and not as to whether or not he's selling the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise.
Right.
But this was a short one. I just kind of want to throw that in because I think it's sort of funny. I want to know what they're saying, because I can't imagine that, the thousands of people that are calling this place all have something funny to say. I gotta imagine like 90% of them are like, do you sell Five Nights? Click.
Yeah, or something like, hey, did kids get murdered there?
Yeah,
it's...
I can't imagine it's anything entertaining, which I feel like if you're gonna do this kind of thing, which don't do it, don't be a horrible person, but at least be funny about it, right? Because think about the poor guy who has to sit there answering the phone all day. He's dealing with idiots spouting unfunny jokes at him for 6 hours, 7 hours a day. At least make him laugh, okay? That's the least you can do.
I can only imagine, like, someone just answers the phone, it's like, is your refrigerator running? And he's like, yeah, let me guess, better go catch it. No, there's a killer bear in it.
No, see, that one would make me laugh. If I was the guy answering the phone, I'd be like, you know what? Points for creativity. I like that.
I'm a better prank caller than all these guys.
Yeah, so, a point of clearance here. We're not suggesting prank call this place. No, don't do it.
Unless you want to use the one that we just created.
Yeah, that's great. But, speaking of somewhat unfortunate, but still kind of... Well, this one's not funny. This one's sort of strange. The Just Cause 3 multiplayer mod that had been developed, right? Or is being developed?
I'm very familiar with it.
Well, the same guys who did it for Just Cause 2 have decided to do it for Just Cause 3, for those who aren't aware. Unfortunately, the project has been permanently cancelled. But not for the reasons that you might think. It's because Avalanche went out and hired the main dude, whose name is Cameron... I, for the life of me, have never been able to find out if it's Footy or just Foot.
I think it's just Foot.
I'm going to say it's just Foot because I don't want to say Footy. So, the lead developer, Cameron Foot, had said that he had joined Avalanche Studios Sweden as a developer, so, quote, he could work on projects present and future. As a part of Avalanche, I'll be able to bring many things you know and love from Just Cause 2 multiplayer into future Avalanche experiences, while reaching heights that a mere mod couldn't facilitate. So, the way that comment is phrased makes people think that maybe Just Cause 2 is going to get multiplayer in some sort of official capacity.
You mean 3?
Yeah, 3, sorry. Or that perhaps the next game that they do might have multiplayer. But because of his departure, it's going to mean that the mod is going to be cancelled, and he put out a second statement for that, saying, unfortunately, due to time constraints, neither I or the rest of the team can actively pursue development on Just Cause 3 multiplayer. Our lives are just too busy to allow for it right now. So... for those of you looking forward to it, it is cancelled. However, there is another team working on a mod that should have a similar effect to it. So, keep an eye out for that. But, I'm curious to see what Mr. Foot has afoot for the next...
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I wanted to make a funny joke, and that's what came out, so I'm sorry, guys.
As the unapologetic Just Cause fan of the show... I think this is great because it definitely means that at least Just Cause 4 is probably getting multiplayer, which is great. That's kind of the thing that game has been missing, is something to kind of keep you playing it.
Yeah.
Which which I think like a lot of like, you know, different stuff could fix that in the future, and I'm sure they're learning that with each Just Cause game that they make, that, you know, let's add a little bit more until eventually they make sort of like an open world that could rival Grand Theft Auto, you know what I mean? As of now, it's just like once you finish that game, there's just not a lot to do in it.
Yeah, it would be like, much like you said, it would be if GTA 5 didn't have a multiplayer, right? That game would have, I think, died off much sooner.
Yeah, I mean, and while GTA 5 is still not doing as well as it did when it first launched, like, a lot of people are still playing it just because they like that multiplayer mode. And so I think, like, at the very least, I feel like what this means is that Just Cause 3 on PC will probably get an official, quote-unquote, multiplayer mod. Like, it's probably not actually a mod, it'll be the official, like, DLC for the game. But I don't think it'll come to the console version just because that game has enough problems running when it's just you in the game that I can only imagine if multiple people are shooting off, like, nuclear rocket launchers on a console version of that.
Yeah, the whole thing would just explode.
Exactly. But I'm excited to see what comes from the future of Just Cause, because you got to assume that, like, if he's on the team for Just Cause 4, and, you know, let's say Just Cause 4 maybe has, obviously it'll have the same number of explosions, like, he could probably, you know, work to figuring out a way of making that work in a multiplayer sense on consoles. As for 3, I don't think we'll get it on consoles this time around.
I think it's a little too late to be developing it for 3, because I imagine the amount of time it would take for developing it, unless he's able to take any work he did on the mod into the official capacity.
I mean, you assume that he would be able to, right? I doubt it's... Because, you know, he was just making this mod in his free time, right? I doubt, like...
Well, him and a full team, so I guess it depends on... I'm sure there's some kinks that might need to be worked out if he's able to take that, or if they even want to develop it for 3 at all. They might... He did say just projects present and future, so it could be a project that isn't just
announced yet.
Isn't announced at all. It could be something that isn't Just Cause. So
maybe it's Mad Max 2.
Yeah. So it's like so many things we talk about on this show. It's a wait and see.
Exactly.
But speaking of waiting and seeing, you can now sit in front of the television and watch a Battlefield series that's coming soon. Well, not soon, but it's coming. And it's being adapted by Paramount Television and Anonymous Content, who's the company behind the TV series Mr. Robot.
Best show on TV, everyone should be watching it.
It is pretty good. True Detective and The Nick. I don't know who The Nick is, but...
The Nick is a show about, like, a doctor or something like that who murders people. I forget.
Oh, okay. Well, they did that too. Yeah. So it's, you know, they got some weight behind them. So Michael Sugar, which is a fantastic name, who unfortunately sounds like a male stripper, won an Academy Award for the film Spotlight, and Ashley Zalta, which is also an amazing last name, came from Anonymous Content and will serve as executive producers on the Battlefield project. So they got some names behind it. So they got the studios, they got the names. Now all of the question is, do they have the content? So what? I'm not going to read the rest of this article because it's not terribly important. But Jacob, what do you think? Do they got the content available to produce a good Battlefield movie or TV series rather?
Just make honestly, like, you could just take a generic war show and put Battlefield on it, and it would work the same, right? There's nothing really that, like, sets Battlefield apart, like, campaign-wise from any other kind of war thing, right? Like, Call of Duty has set itself apart in being that it's, like, it's either future stuff or there's, like, compelling characters to it, right? And we don't know what Battlefield 1 has to offer when it comes to campaign yet, but just going off of 3 and 4, which are the ones that I've really played, like, they're just, like, generic modern war campaigns, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could just make, like, a really compelling, like, war show and just name it Battlefield. And, yeah, have the sort of, what's the word? Like, hallmarks of a Battlefield game, like the destruction and stuff. And I think it'll work out just fine, you know? I like the idea of making a television series out of Battlefield better than making just, like, a movie out of it.
Because I feel like a movie would be too much like a Saving Private Ryan or a Band of Brothers sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been my problem of when I think, like, if they made a Call of Duty movie and say they started with, like, the original Call of Duty, it's like that game is just Saving Private Ryan, but, like even to the point where it opens with the D-Day landing and stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, I've always thought that, like, it works better as in, like, taking it and making it into a longer form narrative. What that takes, you know, who knows? But I'm excited to see the future of it. I think, like, the next wave of video game movies has a better chance of working out than some in the past have. And I really thought that it was going to start out with Warcraft being sort of this renaissance of video game movies where, like, we have really good ones coming forward. And for me, that didn't pan out. For others, it did. So, I mean, we'll wait and see on that one. But I think Assassin's Creed has a good chance of being, like, a really, like, good movie.
I think that's what it's going to turn into, right? Because video game movies sort of might be coming into the golden age, similar to the way comic book movies have done in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But in a sort of contrast to comic book movies, where if your comic books are so melded and meshed together that just if you read comic books, you have an introduction to a very large array of characters. So even if you don't say read Iron Man comics, you know who Iron Man is because he's appeared in other works.
Exactly, yeah.
But the same isn't true for video games. So for Warcraft, for example, if you don't play the Warcraft games, you're going to enjoy that probably less than someone who does. And I think that's going to be a hump that video game movies are going to need to overcome if they want to keep moving forward.
I think the best thing is to take games with simpler stories to turn them into things. Like Warcraft, I think maybe was just too big for a movie, right? Like maybe let's say like Warcraft got like a TV series like similar to like Game of Thrones or something like that. Like having time to spread out the story and explain it in more detail, I think would have been better for Warcraft than say like an Assassin's Creed, right? Because Assassin's Creed is simple. It's like you go into the Animus, you go back in time, you fight the Templars, right?
Yeah, you kill some
simple.
dudes.
Exactly, it's simple, right? Call of Duty or Battlefield, it's like you're in a war, you're fighting bad guys, you know, terrorists. Like we understand that, we see that every day, like on Fox News and stuff, right? So I think like the simpler the game, the better the movie. I mean, like look at Angry Birds, right? Angry Birds is like the highest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes right now because like it's a simple game that you can apply to like anything, right? Like you could have made any story about the Angry Birds that you wanted to, because that game doesn't have a story, right?
As long as it involves birds and pigs.
Exactly. The only point you have to hit is that it involves birds, pigs, eggs, and a slingshot.
Yep.
That's it. Anything in between, you know, you just got to get from A to B. Anything in between is whatever.
Yeah, it's, I do agree that the simpler the story is going to be better, but by that logic, that means Tetris is going to be the best movie ever made.
It has, the thing is right, is it has the ability to do it.
That scares me, I'll be honest.
Do I think it will do it? No, but it has the ability to do it.
It's gonna be an interesting next couple of years, I think. We've seen the renaissance of comic books. Time to see if video games are gonna make the same sort of resurgence in a different media than they're accustomed to, and I hope they do. But we have no idea what setting the show is gonna be in because of how wide a setting that Battlefield covers. But Powell did say in a release that EA's Battlefield has an incredibly dynamic narrative coupled with a loyal fan base, which will allow us to bring this exciting and unique property to the small screen. We look forward to working with EA and Anonymous Content, and thank Michael Sugar for his tenacity in bringing us this exciting project. So apparently he was pretty steady on wanting to make this happen.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll just film it like Hardcore Henry, and it'll be crazy.
As long as somebody makes a joke when they go to fly a helicopter that it's impossible to fly, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Who knows?
That's the only thing I want. But we'll have to, again, wait and see.
Yeah. That's kind of that'll be the name of this episode, Wait and See.
Yeah. But, or maybe one of the 17 million expletives we've, flung out when the show stopped recording. But that is the end of the news, Jacob.
Yep.
That's all I got for you.
All right.
That means we get to move into one of my favorite segments of the show, the Quick Time Question. Welcome to the Quick Time Question. The way the show works is I ask Jacob one form of video game trivia, whether that be in the form of a multiple choice, 3 true or false, or a quiz. And the difficulty and variety of the question is going to vary depending on the format that I choose. I change it up week to week to make sure Jacob doesn't get too comfortable, but Jacob, are you ready?
I am as ready as I'll ever be.
Alright, so this week it's going to be a multiple choice question on Pokemon the game. But the franchise, really.
Oh, okay.
So, are you ready, Jacob?
Yeah.
Alright, so your question is, which one of these Pokemon games was never released in Japan?
Interesting.
So, your answers are A, Pokemon Yellow, B, Pokemon Snap, C, Pokemon Puzzle League, or D, Pokemon Green.
Okay. So, Yellow is based more on the show, right?
Yes, it doesn't directly follow the show, but it was meant to sort of emulate it.
Yeah, it was meant to sort of be more the one that, if you watch the show, this would be the one you could easily get into.
Yeah, you get a Pikachu, and if you want, you can catch a Pidgeotto in the first forest, which you can't do in any other game.
Exactly. So that leads me to believe that was probably also released in Japan because they also had the show there.
That's where the anime came from.
Exactly. Pokemon Snap seems weird enough that Japanese people would enjoy it. So that makes me think that was also released there. What was the one? Puzzle League?
Puzzle League and Pokemon Green were the other two.
Pokemon Green's a main title one, so I think that would be released there. So Puzzle League is the only one that seems like it's different enough to where, like, it maybe wouldn't be released there. You know what I mean? I think I'm going to go with Puzzle... is it Puzzle League or Snap? I think I'm going with Puzzle League.
You're locking in Puzzle League?
Yep. Am I wrong?
No, Jacob, you're right.
Oh, nice.
You have gotten the QuickTime question right, and the correct answer was Puzzle League. The reason being was the Nintendo 64 was considered to have become too unpopular in Japan by the time of that game's release, so it was developed specifically for North American audiences and was then later released in Europe. It is the only Pokemon game to not have been released in Japan.
I used some sound logic there.
Yes, you used sound logic, which was not the logic behind the decision, but it was sound nonetheless.
Can I also say, though, that I thought that Pokemon Puzzle League was going to be like some DS game. I had no clue it was on 64.
Yeah, it was an N64 title. Also speedrun at GDQ, both the one that just happened and I think at the one before it, run by a guy named Cards of the Heart. So, very good, very talented runner. Check that out if you want to see a pretty entertaining run. But, you got it right this week, Jacob.
Yes, I did.
I was planning to flip the question around and say which one was never released in America, where the answer would have been Pokemon Green. But
Pokemon Green was never... Oh, no, it was Leaf Green here, isn't it?
yeah, it was that, and that was only until Generation 3. Pokemon Green was a Gen 1 title. They didn't, We only had 2 Gen 1 titles in the US. We had Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Because originally there were 3 guys. There's Red, Blue, and Green. But that's only if you read the manga. Anyway. That's it, Jacob. You've won. I think you're slowly getting that, the win-loss ratio back into the positives.
For once, I was not made the fool.
Yes. I'll have to try harder next week. Maybe I'll do a quiz. I haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. That was like the first week, and that was really fun.
Yeah, it just, I try to find, it needs to be a franchise that you're very familiar with, or cover a lot of franchises you're familiar with. That way, you have a chance of answering the questions. But
Right.
That's for me to figure out, and not for the show. What is for the show is the spiel. Oh, my God. I thought the audio just cut out again. I was about to flip out.
I mean, at that point, it wouldn't have really mattered. You could have just went through the spiel.
Yeah, I would have just done it solo and cut it in at post. But anyway, if you want to get in touch with us, the best place to do that is at completewithdoc@gmail.com. That's going to be the best place for you to send your comments, questions, complaints, concerns, whatever you want to send to us. That's going to be the place to do it. If you want one of us to answer you specifically, please put our name in the body or subject line of the email. That way, the correct person will answer you. If not, we'll sign it anyway just to make sure you know who's answering you and, who's ignoring you. But if you don't want to email us, that's fine. You can head over to wherever you get your podcast, whether that be iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or any of the affiliates thereof. Once you're there, please use whatever review software they give you, whether that be thumbs, stars, smiley faces, or arrows. Please let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We try to improve the show with every episode, but we never quite know if we're moving in the right direction. Jacob and I are not the smartest individuals. If you don't want to keep up to date with all the show's happenings, then head over to Twitter. We are Complete with DLC on Twitter. That's where Jacob's going to put all the information about whether or not a show gets updated, whether or not one of the YouTube series is getting continued, so on and so forth. That's just to keep up to date with all the show's happenings. If you do not want to follow us on Twitter, that's fine. A listen to the show is all we ask for. Jacob, if they want to get in touch with you specifically, where can they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me on any sort of social media at itsjaygriff, ITSJAYGRIFF. I'm most active on Twitter, so if you really want to get in touch with me, Twitter's the best place to do that. You can talk to me on there, we can share opinions, and you can see what I'm ranting and raving about at the time when I slowly go into madness.
Jacob rants quite often, so.
I do. Brad, if people want to just get in touch with you, where can they do that?
If you want to get in touch with me, you can do that on Twitter as well. I'm Calgany on Twitter, KALGNE. I'm not terribly active, I don't tweet much, but I do frequent it, so if you try to get in touch with me, I will notice you. If you don't want to use Twitter and you want to maybe play a game or two with me while you chat, head on over to Battle.net. That's Blizzard's little interactive hub for other games. It has a little instant messenger thing attached, and it's totally free, don't worry about it. type in Brad hashtag 12 at 61 for the friend code. Once you do that, please let me know where you heard the friend code, whether it be a podcast episode, a YouTube video, maybe the email, wherever you got it. Let me know so I can make a note of it, and I don't delete you when I forget who you are in a couple months, because my memory is terrible. And if you don't talk to me every day, I will forget who you are. I would have forgotten Jacob by now if I didn't have to speak to him, 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that is everything, Jacob. If you want to catch the show live, head on over to twitch.tv/completewithdlc. Not every episode is live streamed, so please frequent Twitter to find out whether or not we're live streaming any particular episode. If you want to catch the VODs of any particular live stream, or just some of the videos that are recorded off live stream, because sometimes we do that as well, head on over to YouTube. Check out the description of the episode to find out what our YouTube link is, because it's super long and I can't recite that whole thing. If you want to find...
Is it only if I want to see the Twitch stream? Because you said Jacob, if you want to see the Twitch...
Yeah, nobody else can go, just Jacob.
Yep, okay.
We don't want the rest of you watching to witness. Imagine if we live streamed this episode. Oh my god, it would have been awful.
God, that would have been like the worst thing for anybody to watch/listen to.
I was gonna say, you know what, Jacob, we haven't live streamed in a while. Let's live stream this episode. And as soon as right before I said that, internet dropped. But I believe that's everything. That over there is Jacob Griffin. I am Brad Knight. This has been Complete with DLC, and thank you for listening.
See you guys.